Democracy is built on the will of the people. But what happens when the people themselves demand a ruler with unchecked power? What if the military, the ultimate force of the state, stands behind him? Could America survive such a moment? Today we explore the darkest what-if scenario. What happens when the United States willingly embraces dictatorship? The United States was designed to prevent dictatorship. It's why we have checks and balances, 3 branches of government, elections, and a military loyal to the Constitution, not a ruler. But history has shown us that even the best-designed democracies can fall, sometimes because the people themselves choose it. Congress, the courts, and the presidency are meant to counterbalance each other. The military is supposed to remain neutral, serving only the Constitution. Power is transferred peacefully every 4 to 8 years. Presidents are not kings. They serve at the will of the people under the Constitution. But what happens when these safeguards break? Not because of force, but because of mass support for authoritarian rule. Now imagine this scenario. A president rises who is deeply loved by the majority. He promises strength, order, and a return to greatness. The opposition is weak, divided, or painted as enemies of the state. The people demand that he stay beyond his term limits. And then, the military's top leadership stands with him. What happens now? A loyalist Congress abolishes presidential term limits through constitutional amendments. Emergency laws are passed, restricting opposition and independent media. Justices are appointed based on loyalty, not the Constitution. The court rules that the president's actions are necessary for national stability, giving him unchecked power. The ultimate barrier falls. Military generals pledge allegiance to the president, not the nation. Law enforcement agencies purge dissenting voices, silencing opposition leaders. At this moment, the US has ceased to be a democracy. But does this mean all hope is lost? Even when democracy seems completely lost, there are still final barriers that can prevent total collapse. But they come with a heavy price. Governors control state laws, law enforcement, and the National Guard. Some states may refuse to recognize federal overreach, sparking a political standoff. Even if top generals are loyal to the president, lower-ranking officers may not be. If military units refuse orders or defect, a major internal crisis emerges. Global powers might refuse to recognize the US regime, imposing sanctions and cutting economic ties. The American dollar could plummet, leading to severe economic turmoil. Mass protests, civil unrest, and underground opposition could challenge the regime. However, if the majority of people support the leader, dissent may be easily crushed. At this stage, America stands at a dangerous crossroads: full-scale authoritarianism or a last-ditch fight to restore democracy. If a president becomes a full dictator, could the military eventually turn against him? A coup could remove the dictator, but it could also install another military leader in his place. Historically, military takeovers rarely restore democracy. They often replace one ruler with another. If lower-ranking military leaders refuse to follow orders, a civil war within the military could erupt. The National Guard, under state control, might resist federal troops. A coup is not a guaranteed way to restore democracy. It could lead to outright civil war. In the end, no government, no matter how powerful, can survive without the consent of its people. The biggest question is not whether the US can become a dictatorship, it's whether Americans would ever allow it to happen. History has shown that democracies do not die by force. They die when the people choose comfort over freedom, security over liberty, and one man over the Constitution. If you believe democracy must be protected, hit like and subscribe, because knowledge is the first defense against tyranny.